Hi, welcome to the first episode of the new rhythm tutorial series. This first part is about fundamental vocabulary, the very basics, and specifically this one is about beats and bars. In this tutorial series, I will not be able to use music to the extent that I would like to, because I do not want to violate copyrights. So I have a few tracks prepared that are free to use, but I encourage you to try all these things with music of your own choice to make it more meaningful. I'm just limited with my options here. Every music that we use to dance to usually has a pulse that is sort of underneath the music that everything else sits on top of. I don't know if that's a good English sentence, but we need to identify this pulse before we can talk about rhythm. So if I play any type of music, there usually is some place where you want to be dancing or where you may be tapping your foot, and for example, in this tune here, maybe you would go like, find a common beat here. Right? So I can walk this pulse with steady steps. And this is what we call the beat. And it's just like a major important concept in rhythm, that there's a beat that is usually not changing in tempo, and that's only half true because there's exceptions to this, but in most of pop music and most of jazz music, the tempo of this beat will stay the same, and it's important for us to feel this beat consistently regardless of the complicated rhythms we might be executing over that beat. So if I'm walking, I try to feel grounded to the floor. I try to not be like holding my breath or doing strange, jerks. Just like a cool flow of a beat at a steady tempo. The speed of this beat may be very different. Maybe from every music has its own speed. Right? Let's see if I have maybe this one here. No, that's a good example. Let's do this. This is a fast one. Right? Now the beat is really fast, and other music is maybe slow. Sometimes we may not be so sure. For example, in this music, there could be an argument. Is the beat really here? Or is it maybe here? Maybe there's arguments. We don't need to get into this now, right? Sometimes maybe you have a music and you're not sure where the beat is, and then you just move on to the next piece of music. With more listening experience, this will come very easy. So, once we have identified the beat, we will notice that not every beat has the same feeling to it. They're not all the same. They're all steady, but they're not all the same. They will be grouped into what we call bars or measures, okay? So, to give an example, I could just maybe sing a tone on every fourth step, like bing, bong, bing, boom, bing, bong, etc., etc. So now, not every beat is the same, but one of them was singled out because it's the starting point of my singing. Okay, and we have created a group of 4 steps or 4 beats each, and that would be called a bar or a measure. If I want to illustrate this, I first have the steady steps. I'm going to draw small circles here. And this goes on forever. As long as the music is playing, this goes on and on. And then the second thing that I did was make the 4th step more important by singing to it, and I created groups. This would be like 2 groups of 4 beats each on the whiteboard now. And that's what we call the bar. And many times in music notation, you will find a symbol like this, which is what we call the time signature. And this just indicates that we have split the whole group into 4 quarters, 4 quarter notes. And the music notation, which is not so important if you are not familiar with it, but the music symbol to write a quarter note would be this, right? This is not so important now, but I'm just giving it as information for those of you who might be playing an instrument. Also, in music notation, to indicate the length of a group, we would usually use a bar line, and that's just a line like this that separates each bar from the next, and it goes on forever. So this bracket here that I was drawing to indicate the group is actually not official music notation. I'm going to erase it now, just to be a little bit more clear. But this would be a graph of what we have now. We have the bar, which is this group. We call it a bar, or the measure. And we have the beats. And in this bar, since we have 4 beats to a bar, musicians would just count the beats and call them 1, 2, 3, 4. This sounds super easy and super silly, but it's actually very meaningful, and it'll be very helpful later. So if I put on a piece of music again, let's pick maybe this one here. Be like actually, it's not a good example. I'm sorry, because traditionally a samba groove would be written in 2 beats to a bar. So I'm not using this now as an example. Let's take a funky rhythm. This would be the beat. And now I need to identify the most heavy beat. I need to try and find the one. And it will be right here. Boom. Boom. And then I can go counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. No matter what kind of fancy rhythms I might be making, underneath I want to always feel very solidly the 1, 2, 3, 4. In 4/4 time, if I always step from one foot to the other, and I start with my right foot, the 1 will always come out on that right foot. I will go like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I love to do this because this way I can physically feel the 1 is always the step on the front, on the right foot. And that way I don't need to be so, I don't need to concentrate so hard on the counting, because my body sort of does it for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. right? If I had a different time signature, this will not apply. Of course, we do not have to group the beats in groups of 4. It could also be a group of 3, for example. In that case, it would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So bang, bing, dee, ding, boom, ba-dee, bom, ba-dee, dee, dang, dang, doo, doo. That would be a tune in 3/4 time. It could also be in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. Da dee da da dee dee, boom, 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 dee, dee, doo, doo, dee, etc., etc. So there are all sorts of different options, but 4/4 time is the most common. Maybe 80% of the music that you will be listening to in tap class or when you perform is probably going to be in 4/4 time. Then there's 3/4 time is also quite common, and then everything else is almost exotic. And it's great to explore this, but for this basic tutorial, it's not so important right now. There's one last thought that I would like to add. When I write it down like this, with the numbers and the vocabulary, it feels sort of cold and theoretical, but it's really not. When you put on a piece of music, and some music is more real than just these loops, and you are aware of where the one is and where the beat is, you can notice that movement feels entirely different depending on whether I place it on the 1 or on the 2 or any other beat within the bar. Every beat in the bar has its own sort of energy to it and its own feeling to it. And it's wonderful to explore this. For example, if we take any type of movement, it could just be like a hop, right? It could just be as silly as just like a jump. And we place that on the 1 of every bar, that'll have a specific feeling. And then if we place it on the 2, that'll have a different feeling. Let's say, let's go back to the funky rhythm here. First I try to find the beat, it's here. Now I need to know where the 1 is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now I always remember, I always try to keep track of where the 1 is. And then I start with my jump on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. If I start on the 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You will probably notice it feels different. If you just look at this on a video, it'll probably look silly. It's just like an old guy jumping around. But if you do it, you'll hopefully find that it feels different. If you do it on the 2 or on the 3 or on the 4, it'll feel different. And this difference in feeling will be even stronger if we do an actual dance move. Let's say we do like a sort of swing style easy step, right? And let's say I do the 1 on the kick in the front here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Let's pick any type of music. How about some reggae? Okay, so I do like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I place that same movement with the kick on the 2, that'll feel different. It'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Let's change to the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this probably looks really stupid if you just look at it. You have to do it and feel it. and try to different speeds of music. And also try it with sound or without sound. This would just be like the movement only, and it's a purely internal affair. It's something that I feel on the inside, and it may or may not show to the outside. I think you can actually see it in dancers, if the steps are on the beat or on the offbeat, or on which beat they are on. Actually, offbeats, we haven't even gotten into that. And obviously we can also do it with sounds, with claps or things. If we move them around to different beats within the bar, they will feel differently. And I want to know the feeling of each beat. I want to recognize the feeling inside, but eventually I do not have to count anymore. I will just recognize the feeling because it feels like I'm on a 4 or it feels like I'm on a 1, etc. So that's Beats and Bars, and see you at the next episode.